Love him or hate him, there's one thing everyone can agree on. Donald Trump knows how to handle a room full of reporters. His comebacks are legendary, his confidence is unmatched, and his ability to turn a tough question into a viral moment, well, that's just classic Trump. But what if I told you that one of his most savage comebacks didn't just leave a reporter speechless? It actually touched their heart in a way no one saw coming. Sounds impossible, right? After all, Trump and the press have had one of the most entertaining love-hate relationships in political history. From fiery debates to those unforgettable fake news moments, his back and forth with journalists has made headlines for years. Yet, in this particular press conference, something completely unexpected happened. The tension was high, the cameras were rolling, and then, just as a reporter tried to corner him with a tough question, Trump responded with a line so sharp, so bold, and yet so shockingly kind that the entire room went silent. What exactly did he say? And why did it leave even his biggest critics nodding in approval? Stick around, because this is one Trump moment you won't forget. The press room was packed, bright lights beaming, cameras rolling, and the unmistakable buzz of reporters eager to fire their next question. It was one of those high-stakes moments where every word, every gesture, could make headlines within seconds. Donald Trump, standing at the podium, looked completely unfazed. Love him or hate him, the man knew how to command a room. His signature confidence was on full display, hands gripping the podium, eyes scanning the crowd, waiting for the next challenge. Journalists, as always, were relentless. Questions flew in rapid succession, each one sharper than the last. Some were policy-driven, others were more personal, and then there were the ones clearly designed to get a reaction. And then, her voice cut through the noise. Enter Rachel Harding, a seasoned political journalist known for her direct, no-nonsense questioning. She wasn't one to back down, especially when it came to holding politicians accountable. Over the years, she had clashed with Trump more than once, their exchanges often turning into viral soundbites. But today, she seemed particularly eager to push his buttons. Maybe it was the energy in the room. Maybe it was the growing pressure of election season. Or maybe, just maybe, she had an agenda. She raised her hand, and as soon as Trump acknowledged her, she went in for the kill. Mr. President, you've built your entire career on being tough, on business, on politics, on the media. But many people argue that toughness often comes at the expense of compassion. Do you actually care about the people you claim to represent? Or is it all just part of the show? The room tensed. Even among journalists, who were used to bold questions, this one felt personal. Trump's expression didn't change. He took a slight step back, resting one hand on the podium. The reporters in the front row leaned in, sensing that this was about to be one of those moments. Somewhere in the back, a camera operator whispered, "Oh, this is gonna be good." Trump had been asked tough questions before, but this one was different. It wasn't just about policy or politics. It was a direct challenge to his character. For a second, the room held its breath. Would he fire back with his usual brand of sarcasm? Would he call it a nasty question and move on? Or would this be one of those rare moments where Trump, the master of unpredictability, did something no one expected? And then, he spoke. What came out of his mouth in the next few seconds would change the entire mood of the room. It would turn Rachel Harding's question into a moment that no one, especially not her, would ever forget. The moment Rachel Harding's question hung in the air, the entire room braced for impact. Reporters clutched their notepads, camera shutters clicked in anticipation, and somewhere in the back, a producer whispered, "Here we go." Donald Trump, never one to shy away from confrontation, took a deep breath, then tilted his head slightly, a smirk forming on his face. His signature Trumpian confidence was on full display, but there was something else, something unreadable in his expression. "Do I care?" he repeated, pausing for effect. His voice was calm, deliberate. "That's a very interesting question, Rachel, and I'll tell you what." He leaned in just a little, like a comedian setting up the perfect punchline. "You won't like my answer." The room tensed even more. This was it, the moment where he would either shut her down completely or turn the entire exchange into a spectacle. "You see, Rachel, people like you, reporters, the media, whatever you want to call yourselves, you always assume you know everything about me. You think I'm just some guy with a loud voice, a few good deals, and a Twitter account. But what you don't know, what you never even ask, is why I fight the way I do. Rachel narrowed her eyes, gripping her pen tighter. Trump wasn't dodging. He was building up to something. Let me tell you a little story, he continued, stepping back from the podium slightly. The crowd went still. It wasn't often Trump broke away from his usual back and forth with the press to tell a personal story. Years ago, long before I ever thought about politics, I met a man. Hard-working guy, had a small business, barely getting by. He was losing everything. The banks were crushing him, the system didn't care, and he was drowning. He came to me, didn't ask for a handout, just a chance. And you know what I did, Rachel? I gave him one. Not because it looked good for me, not because anyone was watching, just because I knew what it was like to fight for something. Rachel shifted in her seat, her confident stance softening. This wasn't the type of response she had expected. That man? He turned it around. He built something amazing. And you know what he told me years later? That one break saved his life. The room was silent now. No interruptions, no whispers, just eyes locked on Trump. So do I care? You bet I do. I care about people who fight. I care about people who don't back down. And Rachel, whether you like it or not, I even care about people like you. Because at the end of the day, we're all in this together. You can write your stories, spin your narratives, but you'll never take that away from me. The entire press room sat in stunned silence. No one had expected that. For a few seconds, the entire press room remained frozen. No one spoke. No one even breathed too loudly. It was as if Trump had thrown a curveball so unexpected that even the most seasoned reporters didn't know how to respond. Rachel Harding, the sharp-witted journalist who had just tried to put Trump on the spot, blinked rapidly, her fingers still gripping her pen, but her usual confidence had noticeably faltered. This wasn't the answer she had anticipated. She had expected defensiveness, bravado, maybe even sarcasm, but instead she got something raw, something personal. She cleared her throat, struggling to regain composure. "Mr. President, she started, but then stopped herself. What was she even supposed to say? Trump leaned slightly forward, raising an eyebrow. What, Rachel? Not the answer you were hoping for? His tone was lighter now, teasing, but not in the dismissive way he usually handled press confrontations. The other reporters in the room exchanged glances of disbelief. Some scribbled furiously in their notebooks, already trying to frame the moment for their headlines. A few, who had always been openly critical of Trump, seemed almost annoyed that they now had to acknowledge something different about him. One journalist near the back muttered, damn. That was actually kind of a good answer. Rachel, still visibly processing, let out a small chuckle. Not a sarcastic one, but a genuine, almost reluctant laugh. I have to admit, Mr. President, I wasn't expecting that. Trump shrugged, flashing one of his trademark smirks. Rachel, I've been surprising people my whole life. You should be used to it by now. A ripple of laughter moved through the room. Real, not forced. For the first time in what felt like years, a tense press conference had shifted into something almost human. And then something even more surprising happened. Rachel, still holding onto her notebook, hesitated for a moment before speaking again. You know, Mr. President, I actually know exactly how that man felt. The room turned toward her now. She inhaled deeply, almost like she was debating whether to continue. My father was a small business owner. He struggled for years, almost lost everything when I was a kid. If someone hadn't stepped in to help him, I don't know where my family would be today. The air grew heavier, not with tension, but with something far more rare in that press room, understanding. For a split second, Trump's expression changed. It was subtle, just the slightest flicker of something softer. Sounds like your dad was a fighter, he said. Rachel nodded. He was. Trump nodded back. Then you get it. And just like that, an unexpected truce had formed. The cameras were still rolling, history was still being made, but for one rare moment, the usual battle between Trump and the press had given way to something real, something human. Within minutes of the press conference ending, the internet exploded. Clips of Trump's unexpected response to Rachel Harding flooded social media. Twitter, or X as it's now called, was ablaze with reactions from both supporters and critics, all trying to process what they had just witnessed. The hashtags Trump surprises reporter, savage but kind, and Trump viral moment shot to the top of trending lists. Even major news outlets couldn't ignore it. CNN, Fox News, the New York Times, and the Daily Wire all ran with the story, though their headlines framed it in vastly different ways. Some called it Trump's unexpected moment of humanity, while others speculated genuine compassion or just another Trump show. His supporters went wild. To them, this was proof of what they had been saying all along. Trump wasn't just tough, he had a heart. Memes flooded the internet with captions like, "When you're expecting a roast but get a reality check instead." Trump, the man, the myth, the plot twist. But what really shocked people? Even some of his critics admitted this moment was different. Political commentators who had spent years calling Trump heartless now found themselves in an awkward position. Some reluctantly praised him, while others struggled to spin the moment into something negative. Still, debates raged on. Was this a rare glimpse into Trump's genuine kindness, or just another example of his unpredictable nature? Either way, one thing was clear. This was a Trump moment no one would forget. As the dust settled and the internet continued its heated debates, one thing became clear. This moment was about more than just politics. For years, Trump has been a figure of controversy, known for his brash style, unfiltered comebacks, and unwavering confidence. To his supporters, he's a fearless leader who doesn't back down. To his critics, he's a relentless showman who thrives on confrontation. But in that brief exchange with Rachel Harding, we saw something rare, a side of Trump that defied expectations. This wasn't about policies, debates, or political strategy. It was about something deeply human, the understanding that, at the core, people are more than the labels assigned to them. The press conference started like any other, a battle of words, a tense atmosphere, and a room full of reporters waiting for their next headline. But in just a few sentences, the entire dynamic shifted. Trump's response, both savage and kind, highlighted something many overlook in leadership: authenticity. Love him or hate him, Trump has always been unapologetically himself. And in this moment, that authenticity wasn't just about dominance, it was about connection. Rachel Harding, who entered that room ready for a fight, walked away with something else, a shared understanding. She came in as a journalist challenging a politician, but she left as a daughter who had been reminded of her father's struggles. And that's what made the moment so powerful. It served as a reminder that even in the most unexpected places, kindness can emerge. It doesn't always come in soft, flowery words or carefully crafted PR statements. Sometimes it comes in the form of a sharp comeback that reveals a deeper truth. Maybe that's why this moment resonated so much. In a world where everything feels so divided, where people are constantly at odds over ideology, this was proof that common ground still exists. And in the most unexpected way, Trump did what he does best. He kept people on their toes. So, what do you think? Was this one of Trump's most unexpected and heartwarming moments? Or was it just another example of his signature unpredictability? Maybe you think it was a little bit of both. Either way, we want to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below, and let's talk about it. And if you love stories with plot twists, viral moments, and jaw-dropping exchanges, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Because trust me, we've got plenty more where this came from. At the end of the day, one thing is for sure. Whether you love him, hate him, or just enjoy watching the internet go crazy over his every move, Donald Trump never fails to keep things interesting. And if there's one thing we've learned today, it's that sometimes the most savage comebacks come with a surprising touch of kindness. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and remember, politics is never boring when Trump is in the room.